Hi, this is Jody's back from Jody's Gems Quilting. Today I'm here to show you how to set your blocks together on point, and it's not too bad. Actually, it's pretty easy to do. There are lots of tools to help you. If you're interested, you can go online and probably find some more videos. I'm doing this for my new on the roll pattern, so hopefully this will help you. What I do is I set my basic blocks, the ones my focus blocks, out on my design wall, and I decide how I want to lay them out. Then I take the same size, which is 9 inches in this case, and I add 2 9-inch squares as setting squares. Then what I did was I cut 2 squares. These are demo squares, but these for this quilt were much bigger, to go in between, and that's in the pattern. So you can figure that out. There's also charts to help you. This one I've had for a long time. There's a chart inside of the Better Homes and Gardens Complete Guide to Quilting, and they show you how to do it in there too. I mean, I love that book. I've used that for teaching for years. And so what you do is you take, and you'll have 2 squares bigger to fit in here. And I float mine, so whatever tells you finished 8.5 inches, I actually took mine up to 10 inches. Whatever the finished 10-inch size was, that's what I cut these for. And then your outside ones, you're going to need 2 more squares, your corners. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up your 2 squares on top of each other, just like you cut them. And I usually do this as soon as I cut them. And then line it up on the diagonal and line up the 45-degree angle and cut through here, one direction. And then you're going to do the same the other direction. And when you get done, you will have quarter square triangles. These are what go into the ends and the edges all the way around your quilt. And the reason is because right here is your bias edges, and you want those on the inside of your quilt. So you want your straight of grain on the outside edge. Got it? Then you take another stack of 2 and line it up on the diagonal and cut through once. And now you're going to have half square triangles. And these are the pieces that go on the corners right here. It took me a long time to figure and remember that because it's opposite. You think the bigger squares go on the corners, but they don't, because you're cutting quarter square triangles for the sides and half square triangles for the corners. And this is the diagonal here. The diagonal has the bias edge, which you want again on the inside of the quilt, and on the outside edge is your straight of grain, which gives you the straight of grain on the outside. Once you get your pieces cut, I line it up or set it all out on my design wall, a table, a bed, somewhere, so that I know where I can get organized. And none of the pieces are put together at this point. You've just cut everything. Then what I do is I sew a wing, a quarter square triangle on the side of each of the corner block. The next one, you're going to have a quarter square triangle, your blocks, you're going to line them all up and piece those all together. You do not add this last corner one yet. And the corner one on here is not done until later. Then you do the same thing with the next row, and you'll have your quarter square triangle over here. Your last row, in this case, this is a smaller quilt. Same thing if it's a bigger one. You're going to take the corner and you're going to put the wings, the quarter square triangles, on each side of the last block. Then what you're going to do is you're going to press these to the setting triangles and the squares, so they all get pressed towards the red in this case. And then I just start putting my rows together. To make it easier, this is the time when I add the quarter square triangle to these 2 corners. So I go ahead and I line it up, use my dog ears, sew it in place, and press that out. I do the same thing down on the other end so that those are ready to go. So now I've got row upon row upon row upon row upon row to sew together. So what I'm going to do is, after you've pressed them, you're going to line these up. You're going to line up your seams right here and right here, and you're going to pin them in place. You're going to pin each end. I do pinning. I don't do a lot of pinning when I stack and slash, but I definitely do pinning when I set it together. So you're going to pin it, sew it together, make sure your seams don't flip and that they nest together well. Then you're going to do the same thing on this end. You're going to sew this side to this one. and you're going to press those out. I usually go out away from the center. It doesn't really matter which way you go at this point. I typically go out. And then you're going to sew this last seam down the middle. And if you have a bigger quilt, you're just going to keep doing them in pairs. Just keep putting pairs together. The most important thing, because my design is turning, the wheels turn like a buggy wheel does. So mine, I have to keep them in specific order. If you have specific designs, you're going to have to do the same thing. Once you get this part of it done, you're going to have these wings out here, just like you did up here, and you had to cut them off to add that corner. So you're going to take your ruler, line it up on your cutting mat, and this is a time to kind of gauge and check and make sure that you're still square. So you're going to trim those two corners off so that it looks like this. Flip this over on here. Get it centered the best that you can. You're going to pin it, stitch it. Now I stitch from this side, and I did for the most part, so that this is my straight grain and this is a bias. A bias is going to stretch, so I will often stitch from this side and just hopefully keep that from stretching as much as possible. Then I'm going to, after this is trimmed, I'm going to put this side over here, stitch it in place, press it out. By doing this float, and this big of a float, which is a lot, I won't have to add an inner border. Last time on my first quilt, I added a smaller just float to it, and it was fine, and then I added a 1 or 2 inch border of the same fabric. So this time I won't have to add any extra. It's ready to go, and then I'm going to add an outside border to it, and I'm done. Yay! Have a great day. Bye.